August was weird. I met Senator Kirsten Gillibrand at the beginning of the month, and then I became unemployed when she stopped running for president. But I did get some reading done. I read 17 books in August across 5 different genres: children's literature, young adult fiction, new adult fiction, classic literature, and nonfiction. Let's start with children's literature. I read 2 books in this genre, and they proved to be exactly what I needed to relax in a time of great stress. We got sent an arc of The Pepper Party Picks the Perfect Pet by Jay Cooper. It is a really cute story about a large family who convinces their parents to finally let them get a pet. In fact, it is Annie Pepper who convinces her parents to let her get a pet by talking about the facts of pet adoption and how many animals are in need of a good home. So it is a perfect guide to talking to your parents about why your family should get a pet. The problem is their parents only agree to get 1 pet, and Annie has her heart set on a Chihuahua, and her siblings each have their hearts set on a different pet, and none of them are exactly above sabotage when they end up adopting a tarantula, a cat, a bird, and a pig. It was a really cute story. Probably best for kids ages 7 to 10. I'm giving The Pepper Party Picks the Perfect Pet 4 stars. I continued reading the Mysterious Benedict Society series by Trenton Lee Stewart with The Mysterious Benedict Society and The Prisoner's Dilemma. This is the 3rd book in the series. The series is about a group of 4 orphans who become friends while solving riddles and mysteries and uncovering the plot of their mentor's evil twin brother. This book starts with a blackout. The entire city's power grid goes down and the kids realize it is part of an evil scheme. This is the final book in the trilogy, and it is less about character growth than showing how much the children have grown and progressed and are now better able to use their own special abilities that they have been working to master earlier in the series. There isn't so much a plot in this book as it was just trying to tie up all the loose ends from the previous 2 books. I still enjoyed it though. The series is probably best for people ages 8 and up. I'm giving The Mysterious Benedict Society and The Prisoner's Dilemma 4 stars. The next genre we're going to talk about is young adult fiction. This section usually takes up a solid half of the video, but I only read 6 books that were part of this genre in August. I was really trying to branch out, and I did it. It's only going to be like 1/3 of the video this month. Let's start by talking about If You Come Softly by Jacqueline Woodson. This was a book club pick from the Life's Library book club. It was technically the very first book that the group read, but I could not afford the subscription to the book club when it started, so I reserved it from the library, and then 8 months later, it became available. I decided to read it way after all the discussion was over because I have always liked books Life's Library has picked. They've always been a wonderful gift when I am able to make the time to read them. If You Come Softly is about Ellie and Jeremiah, who attend the very prestigious private school Percy Academy. Neither really fit in. Ellie is Jewish and is going through some messy family stuff, and Jeremiah is one of the only black students in the entire school. He doesn't fit in a more visible way. The 2 fall in love and try to keep it all to themselves. They are hesitant to talk to their family and what friends they have because they don't think they'll understand. The story ends pretty suddenly because forces outside of their control. The story was lovely, but not every story gets a happy ending, and that's okay. The ending is honest, and that matters. I'm giving If You Come Softly 4 stars. The next book we're going to talk about is We Set the Dark on Fire by Taylor K. Meha. This is the group book for the Queer Lit Readathon, but it wasn't available from the library until after the readathon was over. A theme. We Set the Dark on Fire is a book about revolution. Danny is one of the top students at Medio School for Girls, where distinguished young women are trained for one of 2 roles in society. They will graduate ready to run their husband's household or raise their children. Danny is picked to be one of the wives of an important politician, or at least a politician's son, a bright and comfortable life. This is important to her because her family risked everything to get identification papers for her so she could attend the school. Her parents risked everything to cross the border into Medio to give their daughter a life where she has a chance. Then she is put at risk when a resistance group asks her to become a spy for them so that they can bring real change and equality to Medio. She has to make a choice to cling to the privilege her parents' sacrifices have afforded her, or give it up in order to pursue a free Medio so that other families won't have to sacrifice as much as hers did. There's also some forbidden love pushing her forward in these choices. It was endlessly interesting, and I can't wait to read the sequel. I'm giving We Set the Dark on Fire 4 stars. I decided to go for a book more widely known with my next read after seeing it displayed at Target and in bookstores. For quite some time, I finally picked up The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. It is a really cute love story with serendipity vibes. It's a story between Natasha and Daniel. Natasha, who loves science and facts in her home of New York City, which she has lived in since she was a small child. Natasha, who is about to be deported to Jamaica. Daniel, who loves poetry and dreams and is tired of trying to live up to his parents' expectations When the universe brings them together, they have so many paths they could choose, so many possibilities for their futures, and slowly they choose each other, even though things seem to be working against them. I'm giving it 4 stars. I read the sequel to When Dimple Met Rishi, which I read back in April. It's called There's Something About Sweetie and is written by Sandhya Menon. There's Something About Sweetie is another Indian-American love story, this time following Rishi's younger brother Ashish Patel, who was recently dumped by his super cool college girlfriend. His parents are being pretty annoying and insisting that they would be able to better find a match for him than he could fit for himself, so he challenges them to set him up, since things worked out so well when they set Rishi up with Dimple. They attempt to set him up with Sweetie, a local track star, helpful daughter who is known to be a supremely kind-hearted person. Sweetie's parents reject the match though because she's fat. They just don't think that a fat girl could or should date, so she embarks on the Sassy Sweetie project to show everyone what she's really made of. And that includes secretly dating Ashish Patel against her parents' wishes. The premise is cute, but the two narratives don't always align nicely and it feels fractured at times. It is a light and fluffy story and I'm giving it 4 stars. I reached out and asked for suggestions for books featuring trans characters and written by trans authors. Someone recommended If I Was Your Girl by Meredith Russo. This book follows Amanda Hardy, who is starting a new school in the Deep South. She just wants to fit in, make friends, and find a place where she belongs while keeping her past in the past. She decides to keep it a secret that she is a trans girl and live as stealth. But then she meets a few friends and a nice charming young man by the name of Grant and considers opening up to some people about being trans and letting more people into her life. The book is pretty bland as far as young adult fiction goes. It picks up a bit in the last 50 pages with some coming out drama, but it's mostly just a boring high school romance. It was often vulnerable and introspective, although remains sort of superficial at the same time. I'm giving If I Was Your Girl 3 stars. The last book I read in this genre that I'm going to talk about was the highly anticipated release of On the Come Up by Angie Thomas, who blew us away with The Hate You Give, and then she did it again with her second novel. Angie Thomas is spectacular. On the Come Up is steeped in hip-hop culture, a genre that Angie Thomas clearly loves. It follows Bree, who wants to be one of the greatest rappers of all time. And she has a lot to live up to, seeing as her deceased father was an underground rap legend. She is determined to make it in this harsh business, especially when her mother unexpectedly loses her job. With the threat of being homeless hanging over her head, she works harder than ever to achieve her dream. This story chronicles what it means to work hard for your dreams and for the life that you want, to stand up in difficult situations, and the realities of poor working-class Black families. The book has a good flow and often shows a creative process. It's filled with beats and rhymes that fill your mind as you read, and shows how those are impacted by external circumstances. It was an excellent read and I'm giving it 5 stars. Time for our next genre, new adult fiction. I only read one book that was classified as new adult fiction, but it was a spectacular book. Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston is the fantastic love story about living up to your family name, coming into your own abilities, and coming out. Alex Claremont Diaz is the son of the President of the United States. He is charming, intelligent, and unbelievably handsome. He is marketing gold, and as the son of the president, American royalty, he just has some serious problems with the British royalty, specifically Prince Henry. When they're caught in an embarrassing and widely publicized altercation, they are forced by their respective public relations teams to make nice and spend time together to stop an international incident from breaking out. Rivalry turns to social media worthy friendship, turns to something more as the two begin to secretly engage in a romantic relationship. I love this book an embarrassing amount. This is a book about political campaigns, queerness, and biracial identity, and it is exactly what I needed, and I love it. I'm giving Red, White, and Royal Blue 5 stars, and I think all of you should read it, so we can talk about it in the comments. Please read it right now. Okay, next genre, classic books. This genre also only has one book in it, Anne of the Island by L.M. Montgomery, the 3rd book in the Anne of Green Gables series. This book has Anne going off to Redmond College to receive her BA, a fairly exclusive accomplishment at the time, particularly for a young woman. This book continues to be filled with adventure and whimsy. Anne sells her first story, makes new friends, lives her broke college student version of her best life, and receives a few marriage proposals along the way. The series remained charming and endearing, but it has really lost that spark of childhood wonder and humor that made the first few books really special. I mean, that does come back occasionally though, with letters from home and visits back to Green Gables over break, as Anne spends time with her family and the children in her life. I'm giving Anne of the Island 4 stars. The last genre I'm going to talk about in this video is nonfiction. I read 7 nonfiction books in August. This was prompted in part by the campaign ending and me wanting to figure out what it is I wanted to do next. I read I Am Malala. Malala is famous for speaking out for her right to an education and the right of every girl to have an education when her town was under Taliban control. She was famously shot in the head by the Taliban in 2012, survived, and continued her advocacy for young women's right to an education, becoming the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize in history. This book is great because it lets her tell her own story and documents her life growing up in Pakistan, both before and after the Taliban took control of the Swat Valley. This is the story of her family being uprooted because of terrorism, but it is also the story of someone who is dedicated and determined to speak out, not just for herself, but for the people around her as well. I am just 2 years older than Malala and was a senior in high school when she was shot. I am glad that I had the opportunity to read her story and learn more about her and the amazing work she has done. I am giving I Am Malala 4 stars. Next, I read Becoming by Michelle Obama. She talked about growing up on the south side of Chicago, the value of her education, building spaces for herself and for people like her in majority white male universities and law firms and businesses that she was a part of, meeting her husband and raising her 2 wonderful daughters in a home where both parents worked. I thought I was impressed and inspired by Michelle Obama an appropriate amount. But then I read Becoming and realized that I was wrong. I could admire and be inspired by her so much more than I thought. Because Michelle Obama is so much more than I thought she was. She is so much more complex, so much more human than I expected. She was open and vulnerable in this book, and it made me think that I still had time to do great things, to really help people, and that I can continue to construct myself into the person I want to become, because if Michelle Obama is still in the process of becoming, then it's okay that I am too. I'm giving Becoming 5 stars. I wanted to keep pushing and learning about the Obama presidency, so I read Who Thought This Was a Good Idea? And Other Questions You Should Have the Answer To When You Work in the White House by Alyssa Mastromonaco. This memoir is humorous. It was honest in a relatable way, reminding us that no matter how impressive your job title is, you can still be a cat mom who bleeds through your pants. I read the book because I liked a podcast that Alyssa co-hosted. The podcast is called Hysteria. I honestly haven't listened to it since I moved to Iowa because I was too busy trying to elect the next president, a thing that she did multiple times, with varying rates of success. Who Thought This Was a Good Idea also made me realize that I never want to work in advance. The job is hard, and I would be bad at it. Overall, I thought Who Thought This Was a Good Idea was funny, had a great original voice that I didn't expect out of a White House memoir, maybe because of the people who tend to write White House memoirs are people that I don't really have a lot in common with. And also the book was filled with good advice. I'm giving it 4 stars. When the Gillibrand campaign ended, I had just started reading When We Rise, My Life in the Movement by Cleve Jones. I liked this book, but I don't think I can think about this book without being just a little bit sad. There aren't a lot of first-hand accounts of queer history because a lot of people didn't live to be openly queer in a way that we would understand it because of the lack of language, or they couldn't keep a record of it, or in recent history they died young. This was important to me. Cleve Jones worked for Harvey Milk in San Francisco. He organized his community. He lived through the AIDS epidemic. He took care of the people in his life. He's also still alive. He's probably still doing a lot of these things. This mattered to me because I'm very lucky to be out. I'm very lucky to be able to publicly discuss LGBT+ issues. And mostly while reading this book, I felt grateful. People older than me worked really hard to secure themselves rights, and now I benefit from the fighting they did. And I hope that I am part of this movement in a way that will help future generations. I'm giving When We Rise, My Life in the Movement 4 stars. After reading one gay memoir, I wanted to find one a little bit more contemporary. I read Binge by Tyler Oakley. I've never been a consistent fan of Tyler Oakley's, but his videos have brought me joy in the past, and I love all of the amazing work he's been able to do with the Trevor Project. The fact that he was so honest about sensitive topics like his eating disorder, being idolized, and how toxic his own fans can be towards him and each other, and his parents' divorce was really beautiful. It was also balanced out by Tyler's joy, optimism, and humor. He can get into some heavy topics, but he always makes sure to let people know that there is still hope if you are going through something similar. I'm giving Binge 4 stars. I was kind of in a streak with these white gay memoirs, so I kept it up by investigating Pete Buttigieg, presidential candidate at the time and also at the time of possible future employer. I read Shortest Way Home, One Mayor's Challenge, and A Model for America's Future by Mayor Pete Buttigieg. This is Mayor Pete's story of growing up the son of academics, loving his home of South Bend, leaving for Harvard and then to the UK to attend school, and coming back to try to take care of his community in South Bend. He talked about what it was like to serve in Afghanistan, lose statewide campaigns, and eventually decide to come out as gay. I thought it was an okay book, but it didn't convince me that I should work for him or that I should vote for him. I'm giving Shortest Way Home 4 stars. The last book I read in August was The Truths We Hold, An American Journey by Kamala Harris. I loved learning about Senator Harris, about her parents immigrated from different countries and fell in love during university, about how she got the opportunity of a quality education that was often denied as she was part of integrating schools as a young girl. I was fascinated to hear about why she felt called to serve her community as a prosecutor. I think what I really came away with when I read this book was a sense of how much Senator Harris really loves and admires her mom and her sister, about how the woman in her life taught her how to be a great woman. I look forward to seeing what she is able to do next. I look forward to seeing what she is able to do next in the Senate. I am giving The Truths We Hold 4 stars. That was all 17 books I read in August. There are links to all of the books I talked about down in the Chamber of Secrets. If you've read any of these books or have any recommendations for me, please let me know down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to see more from me, you can subscribe, watch another video of mine, or support me on Patreon. And hey, I love you.